Tappei has just released Arc 9 Chapter 41, and this video will be a summary of the chapter. O gods, O Buddha, O Lord Odd Lagna, I swear I will never drink alcohol again for the rest of my life. The scene changes. Petra made her declaration, and then the tension burst. Heinkel, Roy Alfard, and Volcanica all moved. However, they were not in unison, but each made their own actions. Petra's next step was to cause chaos and disunity within Aldebaran's group. That was the next phase. Just how Petra reading the Book of the Dead caused Natsuki Subaru to appear in her conscious, Petra understood Al probably did the same thing with Volcanica. Considering based on Emilia's statements, Volcanica was a husk. Yet now Volcanica was acting strange and had a personality, meaning Al probably used his Book of the Dead to put a consciousness into Volcanica, meaning Al and Volcanica would have the same no-killing policy, and that's what Petra aimed for. Dragon Al moved first, releasing a mist which then started to freeze. However, Goa was released by Roswell. The flames freed everyone and dissipated the mist. Roswell had a high level of mastery which allowed everyone to be freed without burning anyone. Clint then teleported and kicked Dragon out to the ground, and this kicked up dust. Roy Alpha then jumped through the dust and had a target. He aimed for Ram. Roy touched Ram and then spoke her name before licking his palm and activating his authority. However, nothing happened, and then Roy faced a penalty. Ram then spun around and kicked Roy in the jaw, calling him an idiot. Heinkel was left, however he made a different choice. He tried to jump backwards, but he was met with Grassis and Flam, the other twins, who unleashed blows onto Heinkel. A second later, a new round of compression was used on Al's group. The scene changed. Petra understood the damage Al's group could do. She understood the severity after reading Subaru's Book of the Dead. If Al possessed a return by death ability, he would be like Subaru, but better in every way. Petra reasons that couldn't Al have avoided Felt and Rom if he had a return by death ability? Subaru reckons his checkpoint may have been recent, so he couldn't change course, similar to when Sloth attacked the mansion. In addition to Al, there was a huge range of allies. A ninja, a Sin Archbishop, the Divine Dragon, Heinkel. Subaru reckons Heinkel is strong since he's Reinhard's father, but Petra makes a cross sign. Garfiel would probably be upset learning about what Heinkel has done. Petra reckons Al and his group are powerful, but they themselves are also powerful, and so with that, their friends, they brainstormed a plan to defeat Aldebaran. The scene changes. O great gods, O Buddha, O Lord Odd Lagna, I swear upon my life to never write another letter. With that, the scene changes. Compression, the authority of melancholy, was not omnipotent. It could only be used on things which can be done in time. So if you used it to traverse an impossible distance, it wouldn't work, since you would have to be able to complete that action in a set amount of time. Not only that, once enemies were aware of it, it was a lot harder to use. Furthermore, beings like Volcanica were harder to use the authority on. It mainly works on enemies who consent to it, or are unaware. The Aldebusters exploited Al's group's weaknesses, presenting Roy with a banquet, unnerving Heinkel so he would retreat, and making the use of Volcanica's non-lethality clause. The surprise attack worked on Volcanica. Clint is at awe of the Divine Dragon, but we see Clint is only with one other person, Roswell. We see that Clint managed to teleport Volcanica to the plains, meaning that only Volcanica, Clint, and Roswell were present. Dragon Al says, Clint was it, so you're the holder of the witch factor of melancholy. Clint asks how Dragon Al knows it, and Volcanica says it was something he learned from an all-knowing person. but it was throwaway information, so he only just remembered it now. If the person who took control of the dragon shell can learn information from the dragon shell itself, then it's no surprise that they would know about the melancholy witch factor. However, something doesn't really add up. The usurper of the dragon shell still cannot use Volcanica's skills properly, yet learned about Clint from an outside source. Roswell says that he's feeling left out, but states it doesn't really matter how Volcanica learned the information. All that matters is how they will act on it. Dragon Owl spreads his wings and says that maybe taking himself on their own whilst leaving everyone else alone was not a good decision. Roswell asks Volcanica to explain. Dragon Owl says that since there are less people around, he won't hesitate or hold back. Clint and Roswell say that the same goes for them. We see that there are multiple orbs of light around Volcanica, and they all light up in different colours. Whilst the little orbs looked like small spirits, in reality each orb was the apex of grand magic. Their source could only be the most powerful magic user of all time. Obviously the same was true for Roswell. With others around, he couldn't use his true might. That was also true for Clint also. He removed his monocle, and the pressure around him changed. It wasn't that the monocle sealed his power or anything like that, but it was a resurfacing of a person who he once used to be. Jet black horns erupted from Clint's head. The twin black horns showed that Clint was one of the few remaining members of this race, the Dragon Kin. Dragon Owl says, oh, it makes sense that his body was reacting to Clint. Each one of them then introduced themselves. Roswell L. Mathers, disciple of the witch. Volcanica, the divine dragon. Clint, the dragon kin of the divine dragon. Each of them introduced themselves. The world rendered, and upheaval began between those who existed 400 years ago. And with that, the chapter ends. So this chapter revealed quite a lot. So we were wondering if Volcanica was a dragon husk, who was the dragon kin. It turns out it was Clint the whole time. And not only that, the authority of gluttony did not work on Ram, which means that Ram is not her name, which means Ram has another name. So that's quite possibly the biggest twist. Or it could be that someone was dressed up as Ram, which seems to be kind of out there, but let me know what you think about that. Maybe Ram's true name is like the name of the Oni god? I'm not sure.